know, there's been a lot of talk about the Ultra Beasts coming soon to Pokemon Go, but I've noticed not a lot of people are talking about the Pokemon specifically designed to destroy them. This Pokemon was created by a man specifically to fight the Ultra Beasts and created in Arceus' image. It is Titanol. Okay, I know that this doesn't look like Arceus whatsoever, but in the Sun and Moon Pokedex, it does state that this Pokemon was designed based off of a Pokemon of myth, and that Pokemon later on was confirmed to be Arceus. And there are some similarities between Titanol and Arceus. For starters, it is a pure normal type legendary Pokemon, and the second thing about it is, when it evolves to its second form, it actually has a very similar ability to Arceus. But before we dive into its evolved form, let's focus on Titanol real quick when it comes down to Pokemon Go. At level 50 at a 100% IV, its max CP is 3012, which is pretty decent, and then its attack and defense are both 184, and its stamina is 216, meaning that this is actually a kind of bulky Pokemon with a decent amount of defense and a decent amount of attack, and it has some interesting moves in the main series games. It can get things like Shadow Claw, Icy Wind, it can get Rock Slide, X-Scissor. It has all sorts of crazy moves, and the reason why is because, again, this Pokemon is basically like a chimera, so it has a lot of features from other Pokemon. As you can see, it has like bug claws, a fish tail, some avian plumage on it. It has aspects of almost every single type on it. But I'm sure you're curious, where exactly does Titanol fit into Pokemon Go? Well, when it comes down to raids, I'm afraid to say it's not very good at all. You see, this Pokemon mostly will shine in PvP. And with the movesets that I mentioned earlier, you can clearly see why. For one, a fast move of Shadow Claw, if it ends up getting that in the future, is really good for gaining energy, and there's a lot of Pokemon weak to Ghost-type moves, so that's great. And then for the charge moves, Icy Wind is already something that we see a lot in PvP. For starters, it hits pretty decently hard, and it drops your opponent's attack, which is great. And then there's Rock Slide, which is used on a lot of things. And when you get this thing to evolve, it gains access to a lot more useful moves. But before I go over those moves, let's quickly go over how exactly this thing is probably going to evolve. In the main series games, you had to increase its happiness level to about 220, which I don't know what that conversion would be in Pokemon Go, but clearly you're gonna need this thing to get buddy hearts in order for it to evolve. And maybe they might make you get all the way to Best Buddy in order to evolve this thing to its final form, Silvally, which, as you could tell, all it did was lose the little helmet thing on its head, which was meant to inhibit its power, and it gets slightly better. Now, Silvally is a pure normal type Pokemon, just like Titanol, but it has a really cool feature that we'll go over in just a second. But first, let's go over its stats real quick. At level 50, at 100%, it has a max CP of 3,336, which is slightly better. Again, the mask was basically kind of nullifying it a little bit. It has an attack of 198, a defense of 198, and a stamina of 216. So it bulks up a little bit more and can deal a little bit more damage. And some of the moves that Silvally gains access to are actually pretty decent. It gets Fire Fang, Ice Fang, and Thunder Fang, but it also gains access to Poison Fang, which is really useful right now, because not only does it help deal with Fairy-type Charmers, it also drops things' defenses when you use it, so even if it's a Pokemon that would resist this, it's still taking a defense debuff, which is very useful. And it still has access to the previous moves of Icy Wind, Rock Slide, Shadow Claw, and to be honest with you, I've never seen a Pokemon in this game that might have Shadow Claw, Poison Fang, and Icy Wind on it, which could be absolutely disgusting for PvP. Not only does it get access to some pretty amazing moves, but it has a very special ability that only one other Pokemon has, and that's Arceus. You see, Arceus can be any type you want it to be as long as you give it the correct elemental plate of the typing you want it to be. Well, Silvally works the same exact way, but instead of giving it the elemental plates, it has elemental memory drives, like the bug memory, the fire memory, the ghost memory, yada yada. You can go through all the 18 typings, which means Silvally can be any of those. And when you give it a memory, it will also change its colors depending on the element that you gave it. So it has 18 different color schemes, and it only changes on the head spikes, the tail, and the eyes, which is good for your opponent to know exactly what kind of typing it's facing. So now the question is, how exactly are we going to change our Silvally's typings to whatever type we want it to be? And I think the answer is through the form-changing mechanic that we currently have in Pokemon Go that isn't really used too much, but I could see that being the way. Now, I don't know if we're gonna have to collect items like these memory discs in order to be able to transform it into whatever typing we want, or if it's just gonna cost a little bit of Stardust and some candies and you can just make it whatever you want and it doesn't matter. I don't know, but Yeah, I would imagine this would be the solution. I highly doubt there's going to be different forms for each one of these, like raids-wise, because I could see that happening too, but again, this is a Pokemon that evolves, and it's a very weird and special one. So I feel like the form-changing mechanic is how we're going to be able to do this. Now, I'm sure you're curious, how exactly are we going to get our hands on a Titanol? Are they going to be in raids since they're legendaries? Well, I don't think that's going to be the case. You see, in the main series games, you never encounter a Titanol ever. They're never in the wild. The only time you encounter one is through your rival Gladion, which you might have noticed in PvP when you hit rank 20, you get his avatar pose and his avatar items for your own character, which felt like a little bit of a hint as to what's to come. You see, in the main series games, he has one of those on his team, and you have to defeat it, and eventually it evolves into Silvally, and you have to defeat it. But near the end of the game, Gladion will actually give you a Titanol. So I feel like that's how it's going to work, is that we have to go through the special research, whatever it may be, and then maybe near the beginning or middle, we're going to get the Titanol, and then later on, we will have the opportunity to evolve it into a Silvally, or maybe we have to get buddy hearts for it in order for it to evolve, but I feel like that's how it's gonna work, and I feel like it's gonna roll out around the same time as the Ultra Beasts, seeing that this Pokemon was designed to fight the Ultra Beasts. Personally, I feel like both of these Pokemon are gonna be pretty good for both Great and Ultra League. Not so much Master League, because unfortunately, Master League, they just don't max out high enough. There's a lot of things that would probably just destroy them, but for Great and Ultra, pretty good. And if I'm correct on their movesets, if we actually get those, it would be a really interesting Pokemon to fight against, especially with the ability to change your typing to whatever you want with Silvally. And also, if I'm correct when it comes down to how we're going to obtain a Titanol through special research, luckily, they're pretty low at level 15. A 100% Titanol is an 1142 CP, and if you evolve it to Silvally at level 15, it'll be a 1264 at 100%, so that's not bad at all. You could easily power these up a little bit in Great League or a bit for Ultra League, and you'll probably be pretty set. The downside is it is a legendary, and we're probably not going to get a lot of candies for it, but I still feel like they're going to be pretty impactful in this game. Not to mention, Silvally could be really good for Rocket Leaders, especially if you know what the Pokemon you're going to be fighting are going to be. You could easily change your type to be something that resists the things that you're fighting, and with quick spammy moves, I mean, the Rocket Leaders might not stand a chance against the Silvally. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you have, why not check out some more amazing Pokemon Go content on my channel? And don't forget to smash the like button for me, show me some love, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you know when I upload, and also comment down below. Are you excited for Titanol and Silvally, or do you feel like they're not that exciting? Links for Patreon and merch are in the description box below, but with that being said, this is the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.